So last time we talked about Luna from Helluvaboss, and how the big issue I had with the character was that she lacked the actual development that was being made, and how she was, at the time of me making the analysis, a flat character. And the reaction to that video was...
We're in the money, we're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along.
Not what I was expecting. Hence, I figured that we keep this up and talk about a character that I briefly mentioned in that video, and expand upon my analysis with said character while Season 2 is being made, and give my hopes for it. That character is... Millie. Honestly, Millie's development throughout the series so far is actually kind of worse than Luna's. At least Luna had an episode that was at least halfway on her as a character and as such, and planted the seeds of development. I can barely say the same about Millie. Also, before we get any further, there were a few people who wanted me to talk about Octavia, as well as the sneak peek that potentially has her and Luna interacting, because the fan base of the show apparently wants two goth girls hanging out. Can't say I don't blame them. Look, guys, I dig goth chicks too, but I can't really come up with anything worthwhile to talk about with Octavia until that episode comes out, because Octavia only really has one episode and a couple appearances afterwards. I can't really discuss too much on development until we see the character. Acting like a character. Way to go, Common, you tanked your watch time. Who are we talking about again? Oh yeah, Millie. So, Millie, the third member of the IMP field agents and wife of Moxie.
My wife!
Look, let's get this out of the way. Despite the name of the video, Millie is not a terrible character. Sure, she can be loud, she kills people, and can be confrontational, but that's not a complaint. I'm a guy who loves characters like Travis Touchdown, and he's all those things as well in the first game.
Fuckhead!
Millie is almost a balanced character, really. While she has her serious side, she also has her kinder side too, and that's in regards to her husband, Moxie. The two are pretty cute with each other, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who thinks that. Hell, the music video of the two of them has over 15 million views. People like their ships. Damn do they like their ships. Damn it. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a power couple in a show like this. Heck, it's actually a good thing when you think about it, since it has a lot of potential to have both characters stand out amongst the cast, and may even act as a parallel to other relationships that are shown throughout it.
Wait, you? Yeah!
Hell, you can even compare it to the other main relationship that I just made a crack about and YouTube doesn't want me referencing for some damn reason because they keep demonetizing me for. But that doesn't happen in the show, at least not in Season 1. In fact, it's quite different really, where the relationship that they have is actually being shunned and ridiculed in the final episode of Season 1.
I love you, 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 I love you.
Now, I get it. We're on Twitter. Now, I get it. We're in hell. Sorry, easy to mix the two up nowadays. But I shouldn't expect the Ring of Lust to be all about the sanctity of marriage. But what I would like is an explanation of the culture and how things work in hell. Yes, I know this is a video about Millie, but this is important, damn it! And I'm leading up to something. Much how like I explained in the Luna video, we've got a lot of questions of how things work. Stuff like how hellhounds and imps are the lower class, and how there could have been some sort of prejudice between the two. And getting back to the Ring of Lust, how and why marriage and love are frowned upon. Especially when earlier in the season we saw Millie's parents, who are... well, I assume they're married. Is marriage and good old-fashioned romance frowned upon in the world of sin? Or is it just a bunch of jackasses who just want to have crazy one-nighters? I don't know. I know I brought this up before, but one of the bigger issues I have with Helluvaboss is the world building. Like, I got lucky with a podcast of Vivzie talking about the ranking system and stumbled across a couple of users on Twitter talking about it while doing research. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how this works. No one should be expected to comb through the internet to find information that should be in the series. Podcasts, tweets, live streams, hell, online comics too. It's fine if it's to flesh out the elements of a show and expand upon the concept, because you don't want to bog down your audience with lectures telling them about the working class, because that's not entertaining, but you should at least establish some of these concepts in your show. Now, you may be wondering, Common, what does this have to do with Millie? I'm glad I asked myself that. Characters don't exist in a vacuum. When you're writing a story, you need to consider the world as well, since it too is a character. Much like how the people in the real world can be affected by the world of it, or affect it, so do fictional characters. Duh. Let's get back to the podcast that had vivziepop talking about the class system.
Pretty the low bottom is like imps and hellhounds are like kind of the bottom of this society, which is why Helluva is about the imps, because it's basically like the working class of this entire society, and they have all these other classes above them. Like even the sinning class is technically above them, and they have to work the retail jobs or like the, whatever job in the sinner's world.
They're the middle to lower class.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Groovy. Things that make me sound like an old man. This is word of God. Let's take this as fact. How does this affect our characters? More specifically, Millie, because I know there's going to be people who are going to bring up Blitz and Stolas. But that's for another video, maybe, I don't know.
Nice.
What I'm saying is the world needs to interact with the characters, and we really haven't gotten too much development on the world and how it really affects our characters. Like, one of the biggest issues I have is how barren the world of Helluvaboss is when you just view the show. Like, there's a lot of stuff that isn't explained, and not everything has to be, but it would be helpful if stuff like the working class, or how the ranking system works, or how the circles of hell work, would be nice to see. Granted, I'd say a halfway decent counter to that is that it would take too much time to make that happen or bog down the episodes. Or you could even say that the relationship between Stolas and Blitz actively shows that with the working class and the elites. And I would counter that there tends to be a bit too much fluff, as well as having development being made that could be considered redundant. Moxie's development to be specific, but we'll get to that later. Now, I bring this up because this is a bit of an issue for all characters. We get the untold story of why the culture is affecting our characters, but there's no actual confirmation within the show itself. Now, this is a criticism you can levy at every character in Helluvaboss. Hell, I specifically don't know what the owl demons do, the Goetia.
Hey boss, I think the real pronunciation is...
Yeah, whatever. So, now that we've got that out of the way, let's actually talk about Millie.
I probably should have used this earlier, huh?
I love you, hon. But for fuck's sake.
I will not be the first person to say this, and I probably won't be the last, but my biggest issue with Millie as a character is that she's, well, flat. No, not that way. She's a flat character. Like, pretty much the only things that to her is that she's a kick-butt married chick that loves her husband very much, can fight, and has a family that's southern. Like, it's not bad, but when you really think about it, there's nothing really there for development. But let me rephrase that. There hasn't been an episode dedicated her to really flesh her out. And blah blah blah, people typing in the comments that's saying, oh, season 2 can flesh her out. Yeah, but we're in a here and now, and this can still be applied to the first season's faults. Hell, a lot of what I say about Luna can also be applied to Millie's character too. From what we've seen from the imps in the show, they ain't exactly the most upstanding citizens, yet Moxie and Millie tend to be a little bit better. Well, they aren't what I would call good, since they do kill people, but there's obviously a lot more positivity going on between the two. So here's a good question. How did Moxie and Millie meet? What drew Millie to Moxie? Like, we get some of her backstory in Lulu Land, where we learn that she's quite violent in Harvest Moon episode.
Yeah! Wish I could play.
Millie, you know you get too carried away. The last competition ended in 15 separate funerals.
I'm aware, but I only caused 9 of them. How come Sally Mae still gets to compete?
Your sister doesn't have a neighborhood head count.
She so does.
It doesn't count if they don't find the body.
We also learned that she's been married to Moxie for about a year in Ozzy's episode. Again though, this is not development of a character, this is expanding upon the character and their backstory. And there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that are scared about, but missing at this point. From what I can gather, from what fragments of Millie's past and current actions, she's not shabby with fighting and can arguably be one of the most competent fighters on the IMP team. And has a violent streak, and can kick people's asses. And while she hasn't lost her touch, the fact that she's able to be so lovey-dovey with Moxie flies in the face of that violent streak, showing that she's got a soft spot. And the episode when Blitz and Moxie are being held captive by the agents, we see her being extremely violent and competent, as well as seeing her being sad. So there's material to work with here, but it's a bit murky at this point, and hasn't really been used at all in the first season. I'm not going to rehash my complaints with episode 6 like I did with my Luna video, which, if you want a refresher, chance to have Luna and Millie bounce off each other, argue, learn more about each other, and then develop a mutual respect, blah blah blah, show my video here. I will still maintain that it was a missed opportunity. But then we get to the bigger issue, episode 5. So here's what we can consider. We're in Millie's hometown, we can see her family, we learn a bit more about Millie's past, and can even see a bit of her family dynamic, as well as how her family is worried about her. Oh, and we also get this.
Pathetic.
Holy shit! Kinda refers to that whole violent streak and possibly more killer attitude going on. However, the episode quickly turns into a Moxie episode where he has to prove himself to Millie's family and then turn a bit of a Blitz episode at the end with Stryker trying to seduce him. Ooh, kinky.
You need to be stopped!
I think what I kind of find infuriating is that this was a good opportunity to flesh out Millie as a character and maybe reinforce the confidence that Moxie had gotten early in the season, but no, gotta rehash the character development. I know someone's gonna say that Moxie's original development was, making sure he was capable of killing innocent people, but he really wasn't. To me, it was more of a confidence issue going on, and while I can admit that, hey, that's fine, confidence is something that you need, but it's still kind of rehashing, if you ask me. I think what I want to see is actually have Millie be her own person. Like, as it stands, she's a wife character with a violent tendency, but that's all there really is to her other than her southern accent, which, as someone who's been living with people with that accent for ages, I'm kind of biased against that. The only for the lack of development for Millie is to actually see her interact with others without Moxie. Or hell, I'd be fine to see how the two actually met. Millie is borderline psychopathic with her violent tendencies, so to see how that change was made would be a very fun idea. It is perfectly fine to have a pair of characters in an established relationship, but the problem is that Moxie and Millie don't have equal development, and are more in line with the main cast. Like, if Blitz is to be the main character of the show, Moxie and Millie are the primary characters due to how often they show up in the show and story. However, they are not equal in that regard. Moxie's the one who gets more of the development, and unfortunately that makes Millie into a secondary support character. If I really had to put it down, Blitz is the main character, Moxie's the secondary protagonist, and unfortunately Millie has become a support character, which sucks because it's clear that the show doesn't want her to be, because of all the badass moments she has. But from a writing perspective, there's a lot to be desired.
What was sex with her like?
Billy!
What? It's a pop star. You'd want to know what sex with Michael Crawford was like.
It needs to be stressed that a lot of my complaints with these characters, they are dependent on how the second season will go. Much like how there could be an episode that expands upon Luna's character and interaction with other characters and give her development, the same could be said of Millie. From what we've seen, however, I'd say that Luna's got a better shot since there's more prominent seeds of development being planted, but Millie's got a bit more speculation to her that makes it harder for me to see how they could improve upon her lack of development or full characterization from season 1. Harder, but not impossible, mind you. Frankly, if you were to ask me, they should focus on the violent tendencies that were established in the first season and work with that along with the relationship that she has with Moxie. I mean, Millie comes from the Ring of Wrath, and that should be capitalized and explored upon. Hell, look towards Season 2's first episode, you can already see the show is exploring the past of their characters through flashbacks. And while I'm not too big on flashbacks, especially if they're done a lot, which, God, I hope they don't do for that season, if it's done in the service of characters and learning how to develop, I am perfectly fine with that. If I could make a prediction of sorts, I'm willing to bet that there's going to be an episode dedicated to Millie. We'll probably see her past as a violent assassin or fighter or something like that, and possibly see how she met Moxie. That's a hazard of a guess, though. It's probably something that's got to do with killing, since Moxie said that's what he loves about her. Ya freak. If I were to really take into consideration the information that we do have on Millie, that'd probably be the best route to take with the writing and to remain consistent with the pre-established lore of the character. To make another thing clear, there should be more interactions between Millie and other characters while Moxie isn't around. Then again, I'm just making a suggestion in what I want there to be. That doesn't mean it's an actual criticism, just a little hope. Again, my complaints with the Dorks episode kind of elicits that. Millie should be her own character outside being a wife and an employee. She's probably the character with the third most screen time and voice lines in the show, so you should at the very least have more for the character and not rely too much on fluff and already established self-conscious issues of another character. Honestly, one of the biggest criticisms of my Luna video, and one that I actively addressed in said video, was that there's going to be an episode dedicated to the character, and thus my issues with Luna are negated. And the same can be said about Millie. And hey, fair enough. I would argue that misses the major point of my videos though, and that is to showcase how unfair the character development has been divided amongst the cast up until now, and to showcase what seeds there are, and to see if they'll actually come to fruition during the second season. If anything, helluvaboss is more focused on the relationship of Blitz and Stolas, with the extra side of Moxie, with Luna and Millie being left to the side. Now, you can say till you're blue in the face, but these are issues that should be brought up and remembered if and when the payoff for this development is there, so we can see if it's possible, see if it's consistent. Then again, I'm not going to say that if it doesn't, then hey, it's bad. Who knows? You don't have to do what I say. I'm just a critic online who just likes sharing his opinion. Nothing I say is fact. I will say in the case of Millie, I believe that it was a bad thing not to give her any actual development in the first season. There were a lot of good opportunities for that. Of course, there's one thing I can really say that stems from a lot of issues with the show, and it's apparently one of the best things that people enjoy about said show. But if you guys want me to talk about that, then hey, let me know. How? Well, if we can get over 5,000 likes and you guys type in Lululand in the comments, well, we'll see how well that goes for me. Until next time, I'm Manga Common, and have a good day. However, they are not equal in that regard. Moxie is the one who gets most of the development between the two, and unfortunately, Millie makes more. It's fine to have a pair of characters that are in established marriage, but the problem is that Moxie and Millie don't have it of equal development. It is fine to have a pair of characters that are in an established marriage, but the problem is that Moxie and Millie don't really have a However, they are not equal in that regard. Moxie is the one who gets the more development, and unfortunately makes Millie into a more secondary. You know, if you want, you can put a blooper reel at the end of this video.